Hi, Taurus. It's Denise with Divine Soul Astrology, and today I'm here to talk about the Sagittarius Full Moon, which is happening May 31st, 2026 at 1:45 a.m., and that is for here in California. So please check for your own time around the world. In some places, it's going to be much later in the evening. Yeah, and so the full moon, it's the second full moon, so they're calling it a blue moon. And because we had the Scorpio full moon on May 1st, and now, we're doing the Sagittarius full moon at the end of the month. May is a longer month, so it makes kind of a lot of sense, right? So I have you here on the ascendant, so you're able to see what's going on here with your chart, all right? Don't pay attention to where the DC and the AC is supposed to be in the first house. It's been moved around because that's what the software does. It's not, you don't need to even be concerned with that really, right? The MC is usually in the 10th house, but we're not going to worry about it because I am explaining the houses very well today, like I always do, right? So, yes, I'm very thorough. So, the Sagittarius full moon is in your eighth house of transformation. And so, Taurus, for you, this full moon is on the money axis. Yeah, it is, because the second house is is your house really, but the second house and the eighth house, we have this axis, the opposite signs, and in this case, it's opposite houses because this axis, in essence, is, in the natural chart, which Aries is the only one who has that, is the learning or the intellectual axis. Because Gemini rules learning, it does, and thinking, and Sagittarius rules the higher mind, education, higher realms, and God, and things like that, right? That's kind of associated with the higher purpose, the higher mind. So we have that axis there. It's really saying Sagittarius needs Gemini and Gemini needs Sagittarius. That's what they all say. Or that's the idea. But for you, we have the full moon is in a hidden house. It's also in this house of transformation and endings and new beginnings and life and death. This is a hidden house. It's a house of deep psychological issues because Scorpio is about depth and intensity. It is about intimate relationships, that house, and money and shared assets, which can be 401ks, the money you make with your spouse or business partner, things like that. That is also a house of real estate, the eighth house, because of the shared monies. And it is crises and secrets. It is. So that is the eighth house. The sun is in your second house of material comfort, material gain, material comfort, and well-being. This is your house of self-worth as well. And so there we have that. And yeah, the sun is in your second house. As I'm saying, it's ruled by Mercury, right? And so we have the full moon being ruled by Jupiter, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of really not look too much at these notes here because yeah, it's kind of yeah. So here we have um the full moon being ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is about growth and expansion. It's about our wisdom, higher realms, and our purpose, what's meaningful to us in our lives, where we are kind of reaching for that, right? And so it's also about the truth and higher education and things like that. And so we have the full moon being ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is also ruling Pisces, your 11th house of future aspirations. So there's a change for you, right? There is, because that eighth house is endings and the 11th is about the future. The 11th is also about our friends and like-minded groups. Social groups can be about social change. Um, yeah, and so and it's also about the gains, the monetary gains that we get from the 10th house of career and status. So that's what's going on here. And Jupiter is sitting in your third house of ideas. And this is kind of the third house of thinking, which is related to, what we're talking about here, where the sun is in Gemini. But the third house is that house of thinking and decisions, plans, and goals. It's also the house of willpower. So there is some willpower that you're being given here, Taurus. You sure are, with this full moon. Um, yes, you are. And so a wisdom to let something go, it looks like, right? In order to kind of move into your future. All right. So, and that 11th house where Jupiter is ruling, it's in Pisces. So it's asking you to trust your intuition, trust your imagination, for whatever you want for your future, right? We need to trust our imagination like kids do, right? And then they get conditioned and they get older and they go, I don't believe in my dreams anymore. And it can be all kinds of conditioning, social. It can be in the school, it can be in the home, it can be just from being alive, right? And but here we see Pisces there. And so the North Node is there too, and that is also asking us to um, is asking us to reach up for our higher potential. All right. So Virgo and Mercury is also ruling this fifth house in Virgo. And that is Virgo wants grounding and discernment. And it's a very practical earth sign. And Virgo is concerned with doing things the right way. That's where the discernment or the refinement comes in. And so we have that there. Um, And let's see what's happening right here. The South Node is being squared by the moon, and the moon's in that eighth house of transformation. The moon can bring endings itself, the full moon. It can bring a culmination. It can be a new beginning after that, after the ending, basically. But the square is asking you to make an adjustment and leave something behind, Taurus, that can be related to your self-expression. This fifth house is the house of how you express yourself, your own creative self-expression as well, your talents. It's also the house of love and sex and children and fun and creative pursuits because that is relating to your talents or your self-expression. So the South Node is there, and the moon is asking you, kind of pressing you to let something go that is in this fifth house. All right, only you will kind of know what it is, but it does have to do with your well-being because it is also, we have Ceres, which is abundance, and we have Uranus and the Sun all making a square over here to the South Node in your fifth house. All right. And honestly, the full moon can kind of bring you maybe want you to have more fun and and believe in your dreams because because Jupiter is ruling your 11th house of higher future aspirations in Pisces, right? Asking you to believe. And so here we have um also, I don't know if I talked about this, but Black Moon Lilith is in your eighth house, and Black Moon Lilith is your shadow. It is everybody else's shadow aspect in their personality, until we face it and come out of the darkness and into the light, right, where we're emotionally aware. And so that is in your eighth house of transformation. And so, that can be about intimate relationships or business partnerships, or also, maybe seeing things that, like things were hidden from you, maybe about yourself. It depends with the eighth house there. But maybe about your philosophy as well, because Sagittarius rules philosophy, right? So the shadow can be, it has to do with ego as well. So, the Sagittarius, the lower expression is, kind of a know-it-all, right? And so I know everything because Sagittarius in the higher mind is the teacher. So, that lower expression, maybe there's something going on there, but it is asking you to let something go here, move away from something that is honestly probably about your own self-expression or your talents and move into them. Yes, definitely move into them. Because we have Chiron making a trine to the South Node, and that trine is, we also have Mars making a trine. Mars is in your first house. It's a separating trine. In other words, it's already happened, but it's still there. Mars is the will to act. It wants you to have courage and drive. So that this right here is making it easy for you to leave something behind, a flow that has to do with your self-expression, likely, or maybe relationships even too, because the eighth house can be about relationships. And so Mars is also ruling your seventh house of relationships. There could be something going on there, right? And how you create harmony and balance. And it's in your sign, it's in detriment. So it's not very powerful, But it could be saying too that with Mars in a Venus ruled sign, it can be saying that something is wrong here, even though there's a trine. A trine doesn't always mean something favorable. It means that something can happen a little easier because they're both in the same element, right? An Earth sign, Virgo, and a Taurus is also, you know, a excuse me, an Earth sign. So Mars is kind of in, an exile here. It's in detriment, all right? And so, but it is about you being able to kind of let something go that is standing in the way of how you thrive. And here is the South Node next to the part of fortune. Part of fortune is how you thrive. Yeah, and if you understand that, where it falls in your chart, you'll understand yourself in a better light. For sure you will. All right. And Venus, we're going to talk about Venus before we kind of get headed out here. But before we go to Venus, this 12th house of endings, there's a few fixed or asteroids here. Pallas Athena is telling you to have wisdom and see the emotional patterns in your life and what needs to go, right? That's your 12th house. So there's a lot of endings here for you, Taurus, because Aries is your 12th house and it is full with Neptune and Saturn. And there's like structure being given there, and there's something that can be healed if you let something go, because here's Chiron in your 12th house, all right, making the trine to the south node of the past. The south node is associated with lack or where we're moving away from. And lastly is Venus. And Venus is right here in your third house of ideas. This house is important because it is ruled in the natural chart by Jupiter, not Jupiter, by Mercury. So what it means is that this is, that third house is important with the full moon. So Venus is there in Cancer. It likes to be in Cancer because they're both, kind of nurturing, sort of, and, a positive, really. But we have Venus there, and Venus is also ruling your sixth house of daily work and habits, right? There's probably something that maybe some type of a habit or something you do on a regular basis that may need to go. Um, yeah, that could be happening there. This sixth house where Venus is ruling is work, health, and wellness, and like your lifestyle or how you manage it, your daily routines. It's also a house of obstacles. So Venus is here, ruling that house here, and Venus wants you to like in your third house of ideas and in nurturing Cancer, it really wants you to take care of yourself. Venus is associated with self-care and is making a square to those asteroids there in your 12th house of endings. All right. So something is a square is an adjustment, Taurus, um, that is kind of we're being pushed to make, right? To make things better. So Athena Palace is there, and Athena Palace is about seeing the emotional patterns. I think I mentioned that. Yeah, I think I did. And Saturn is there. And so Saturn is not part of the square, but Saturn is there to help you kind of create boundaries and let things go that are not helping you to either grow or experience wisdom, expand, things like that, because that's what the full moon is about. So thank you so much for joining me. If you have enjoyed my content, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little bell and you'll be notified of the next upload. Thank you so much for joining me here. If you want a reading with me, I do approach the chart from a very beautiful place. It is a place of empowerment. It's very cathartic, where you can release and heal. Um, and it is very personal. It is, but it is about your lineage, can really show you and empower you and like have you heal as well. So that is one way I approach it. Um, Unless you just want to talk about your talents, right? Because all your talents are there and your karmic lessons are there as well, right? We all have them. So it's not like, oh, I don't want to hear that, right? Because it's very helpful. It is. And so thank you so much for joining me here, Taurus. See you in the next one.